Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So Hare Krishna, dear devotees, thank you very much for joining, and I would like to seek your good wishes and your blessings so that we can continue with the Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto. So 10th canto, the first 40 chapters, as we saw, describe Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. And then from chapter 41 to 50, the chapter that we're going to do today, are mainly his pastimes in Mathura and a little bit in Sandipani Muni ashram in Ujjain. And from the 50th chapter onwards, just after halfway through the 50th chapter, his Leela in Mathura finishes, and then we look mainly at his Leela in Dwarka, in Gujarat. That's why we say Krishna is a Gujarati, because most of his life he spent in Gujarati, so he's naturalized into being a Gujarati. So yesterday we were just recalling how Krishna sent his devotee Akrur to check on the Pandavas, and how they were being very unfairly treated by Dhritarashtra and his sons. And Akrur came back and he advised Krishna as to what the situation was. Don't mute him. So let's look at chapter 50. So this is a really nice verse from chapter 50, text number 56.
Yat yat bhagavata datam adipatyon swasya daye sarvam patyarpayam sur haro bhumi gata nipa. Translation: The Supreme Lord, having come to the earth, O king, these demigods now offered him whatever powers of control he had previously delegated to them for the exercise of their particular authority.
So this is a confirmation of what is described as the position of the devatas, that they get their powers from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there's only one God. That one God can have many different forms. From Krishna comes Balaram, and then Ramachandra, and all the other different avatars. According to the Srimad Bhagavatam Puran, Krishnastu Bhagwan Swayam, and also Brahma Samhita, which explains Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So the devatas, who are they? Very powerful personalities. But actually, these devatas occupy a position. So Brahma is a position. Indra is a position. So personalities who aspire to become powerful may attain. Oops. Sorry about that. After 4:30. So yeah, they aspire for positions of control, and Krishna provides the facility of that desire, and he will give them the powers in order to exercise their control according to whatever they want to do. And of course, when he comes to this world, these devatas, they will offer that back to Krishna. And this is what is very interesting, because when we go to the Ganga, when we bathe in the Ganga, we first take a palmful of Ganga and we offer it to Ganga. What else can we offer? We have nothing much to offer in our, we can only offer what the Lord already gives. So this is a really good example. We should offer everything we have back to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because it's only because of him we have it. So this is very powerful verse, very good example set by the devatas. Right, Krishna establishes the city of Dwarka. This is the entitlement of the chapter. And it relates how Lord Krishna defeats Jarasandha 17 times in battle. And then he does an incredible act, which is very difficult to comprehend before building the city in Dwarka. So let's have a look at what he does. So Jarasandha surrounds Mathura. Upon the death of Kams, his two widows, Asti and Prapti, they went to the house of their father, Jarasandha, in distress, telling their father how they had become widows. Jarasandha was filled with sorrow, but he was also very angry. He was by nature very angry anyway, having a demoniac mentality generally. And he decided to rid the earth of the Yadavs. He considered Krishna and his family to be his enemies. With a force of 23 Akshauhini divisions, that's a lot of army, that's a huge army. He laid siege to the Yadu capital, Mathura, on all sides. When Krishna saw Jarasandha's assembled army surrounding his city like a great ocean overflowing its shores, and when he saw how this army was striking fear in his subjects, the Lord considered what his suitable response should be according to time, place, and specific purpose of his current incarnation. So the Lord is always thoughtful. He won't just act imperiously as we would. So he thought about how should I counteract Jarasandha's menace. So Krishna encourages Balaram to fight. He decided to kill Jarasandha's army, but to spare Jarasandha himself, because he knew in the future that Jarasandha would keep bringing one army after another that Krishna would destroy the armies, because that's the burden that was on the earth. This is the purpose of Krishna's incarnation, to remove the burden on the earth. How he did that? He used Jarasandha as the person who brought the armies to him, and then they would lift the burden from earth. At this time, 2 chariots descended from the sky, and the Lord's eternal divine weapons also appeared. Krishna then invited Balaram to fight, to relieve the earth of its burden. And only a very small contingent of soldiers accompanied them, whereas Jarasandha had millions of soldiers. Krishna and Balaram came out of the city, and Krishna with Daruka at the reins of his chariot. So Daruka is the chariot driver, very expert. Krishna blew his concha, which causes fear in the enemy soldiers. Jarasandha said to Krishna, he wanted to fight him. Oh no, sorry, I think he said he did not want to fight him, as he was a mere boy who murdered his relatives. He killed Kams. And he was particularly upset because his daughters married Kams. So he encouraged Balaram, come Balaram, you're a little bit less cowardly than your younger brother. Come on, let's have a fight. So they had a bit of a verbal discussion. Krishna said to Jarasandha that real heroes do not simply boast, but rather show their prowess in action, and cannot take seriously the words of one who is full of anxiety and who wants to die. After exchanging these words with Jarasandha, Krishna shot his arrows, which quickly killed Jarasandha's army. Thus, rivers of blood began to flow on the battlefield. So then Jarasandha at one point was captured, but he was also released for the reasons we discussed a few minutes ago. For him who orchestrates the creation, maintenance, and destruction of the 3 worlds, and who possesses unlimited spiritual qualities, it is hardly amazing that Krishna subdues an opposing party. Why should we be surprised? He controls everything. Still, when the Lord does so, imitating human behavior, sages glorify his acts. Jarasan lost all his soldiers and was left only with his breath. Balaram captured him. And Balaram expected to give him a good thumping. But Govinda said to Balaram, release him, which surprised Balaram. Why? Why should we release this demon? Let's just get rid of him. But Krishna had a purpose to fulfill through Jarasan. And that was to lure all the other armies to come, because Jarasan would gather all the armies. And that way, Krishna didn't have to work very hard, right? They were all coming to him to be defeated. So it was a good plan. Although Jarasan felt ashamed and decided to undergo penances, many kings encouraged him with both spiritual wisdom and mundane arguments to continue fighting. They told him, your defeat by the Yadus, simply the unavoidable reaction of your past karma. Don't worry about it. We support you and defeat the Yadavs. Anyway, after his defeat, Jarasan sadly returned to Magadha. Krishna's own military force was completely intact, and he received congratulations from the denizens of heaven, who showered him with flowers. As the Lord entered his city, conch shells and kettle drums sounded. Many drums, horns, veenas, flutes, and mridangas played in concert. The people of Mathura came to meet Krishna and Balaram, as many musicians played their instruments and Vedic hymns were chanted. You just imagine the most glorious atmosphere that must have been created when the Lord returns back in such a fashion. The women, their eyes wide open with love, scattered flower garlands, yogurt, parched rice, and newly grown sprouts upon him. Lord Krishna then gave the king, that's King Ugrasen, who he installed after the death of Kams. He gave the king all the wealth he had gotten from the battlefield, namely the countless ornaments of the dead warriors. Quite interesting that they would collect all of the ornaments. And the reason they would do that is that rightly it belongs to the king. So they present that to the king. Balaram discusses Krishna's victory. Although Jarasan was defeated this way 17 times, so Jarasan kept coming with army after army after army, he did not give up the fight against the Vrishnis protected by Sri Krishna. So 17 times. Okay. On the eve of the 18th battle, the barbarian Kalayavan sent by Narad, appeared on the earth with 30 million barbarian soldiers. Wow, that's a lot of soldiers. Krishna consulted with Balaram, decided to build a fort, a great fortress for their families. Enough was enough. There was two considerations. One was the people in Mathura, who Krishna's family, the Yadavs, the Vrishnis, he wanted them protected. But the other consideration was even more important. Vrindavan. Vrindavan is not that far away. And Krishna wanted to protect the forests of Vrindavan, the devotees of Vrindavan, the gopis of Vrindavan. So he decided to build a great fortress far, far away. And then kill the barbarians. Now, Kalayavana had never found a human rival worth fighting. So he was always very boastful and had a huge false ego. But he had heard that the Vishnus were his equals. When Lord Krishna and Shankarasan saw Kalayavana, Krishna thought about the situation and said, a great danger now threatens the Yadus from two sides. So the one side there was Jarasan, the other side Kalayavana. Therefore, we must immediately construct a fortress Where? Far away in Dwarka, that no human force can penetrate. Let us settle our family members there and then kill the barbarian king. Oh, okay. Yes, sorry. This is the end of Krishna's Mathura pastimes. We haven't finished the chapter yet. So halfway through this chapter. After thus discussing the matter with Balaram, Krishna made a huge fort, 12 yojanas in circumference. I think 1 yojana is 8 miles. So it's like a huge 108 miles circumference within the sea in Dwarka. In the construction of that city could be seen the full scientific knowledge and architectural skill of Vishwakarma. Vishwakarma is the architect of the demigods. And he was employed by Krishna to build this fortress. There were wide avenues, commercial roads, courtyards laid out on ample plots of land. There were splendid parks and also gardens stocked with trees and creepers from the heavenly planets. The gateway towers were topped with golden towers and they are touching the sky, and the upper levels were fashioned of crystal quartz. The golden covered houses were adorned in front with golden pots and on top with jeweled roofs, and their floors were inlaid with precious emeralds. This was done overnight, by the way, pretty much. Besides the houses stood treasury buildings, warehouses, stables for the horses, for fine horses, all built of silver and brass. Each residence has a watchtower and also a temple for its household deity. Indra brought the Sudharma assembly hall and the Parijat tree. Varun gave horses as swift as the mind, and Kuver gave him 8 mystic treasurers. So this is a little idea. Probably not accurate at all. I'm not quite sure where I got this from, but it looks interesting. Definitely not Dwarka, but it just gives a little impression of, and this actually might be Dwarka. No? So what happened after the construction? In the middle of the night, as the citizens of Mathura slept, Lord Janardhan, by the power of his mystic Yoga Maya, suddenly removed them from that city and placed them in Dwarka. When the men awoke, they were all amazed to find themselves, their children, their wives, sitting inside palaces made of gold. After transporting all the citizens to the new fort, Krishna went out of the city without weapons, wearing only a lotus garland. And Lord Balaram remained in Mathura to protect it. So Krishna protects his devotees, protects his own. So we want to become his own. We want to become his family, so that his protection is just naturally with us. And the beauty of Krishna is he's neutral. Anybody can become part of his family. He won't stop anybody. So that is one of our desires, how to become close to Krishna. This is quite an interesting picture where Krishna and Balaram chilling out, probably after the battle, not before. There's Narad Muni. This is a really interesting picture. Krishna, Balaram. This is probably after they've established Dwarka. So from the age of 29, so he left Vrindavan at the age of just over 11. So for 18 years, he was in Mathura. So 11 plus 18, 29. And then for the rest of his time on earth, nearly 100 years, he was in, his base was in Dwarka. Of course, he was all over the place, but in Dwarka was his base. So that's quite interesting. So that's the end of the chapter. Any comments or any questions at this stage? before we go to the instructions by Madhusudan Prabhu.
Prabhuji,
Okay. Yes, Kaushalya Maji, yes.
I just wanted to ask, Krishna, after he went for to see the Kaurva, to do the Gita for Arjun, did he do it after Dwarka? He left Dwarka to go there?
While he was in Dwarka, yeah, he left Dwarka.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. And he left Dwarka for many months. He stayed with Yudhishthir.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's correct. That's correct.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Nani Ben.
Yes, Prabhuji. Now we hear a lot about Vrindavan, Mathura, but we don't hear much about Dwarka in scriptures, isn't it? Maybe because it was, when he was in Mathura and then transferred to the Gokul and Vrindavan, it was more of his childhood pastime, so that are made more prominent. And here he was as a king, so not that much prominence is given to Dwarka.
Yeah, for the next, we still got another 40 chapters. So a lot of those are pastimes in Dwarka. So we'll see those now. But you're right, they're not so commonly sort of spoken about. The pastimes in Vrindavan are the most famous, right? Because they're such sweet pastimes. Here, if you like, the sweetness sort of reduces a little bit and the opulence increases. So, and when we have the opulence of the Lord showing, then our mood changes somewhat, that it's more a mood of accepting the Lord as supreme and you pay obeisances. But in his mood as in Vrindavan, it was his sweetness really manifested itself. And the mood was very informal between the devotees and Krishna. And that informal mood is what Krishna likes. He relishes, he loves that interaction with the devotees. The formalities, Vishnu gets worshipped as the supreme, Ramachandra is worshipped as a king. Lord doesn't really relish those pastimes, those relationships, as he does the relationships which are based on spontaneous love. So that's why the focus of Bhagavatam, or the 10th canto, is on the childhood pastimes of Krishna. Very sweet.
And also the pilgrims or devotees, they don't much visit Dwarka. They visit Mayapur and may visit Ayodhya, Vrindavan mainly, but not that many trips or everything. I may be wrong, that organized Dwarka, I may be wrong in that.
There are many devotees who like the Pushti Marg, isn't it? Pushti Marg is quite prominent in Gujarat.
Yeah.
So they would visit. But the Gaudiyas, because the line is generally Manjari Bhav, with the young gopis, that's the sort of mood of them. So that mood isn't quite compatible with Dwarka. That mood is much more compatible with Vrindavan or Mayapur.
Yeah, but you get lots of pilgrims every day at Dwarka.
Yeah.
It's always packed.
Yes, it's always packed.
Okay. I have been to Dwarka.
Right.
And there's something called a Pet Dwarka, something which is sunken in the ocean.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's it.
that's the original Dwarka.
That's the origin, yes.
Yeah.
That's what Krishna raised and made the city there. And then after he left, it was submerged again. And I think they've found, haven't they? The scientists or whoever is does the look, seeking out these things, they found remnants of palaces and things.
Yeah. And also the other difference is, if you go to Dwarka, where originally Krishna walked around, is not there, whereas Vrindavan and Mayapur, it's still there. So you see what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if you
Yeah.
go to Vrindavan, you can imagine like Krishna walked along those paths and everything. But in Dwarka, you don't get that.
No, no.
Yeah.
And although he stayed here for nearly 100 years, practically,
Yeah.
his inner thoughts was always going back to Vrindavan. It wasn't so much here in Dwarka. Dwarka, everybody would come and ask him, I want this, I want that, you sort this out, you sort that out, you're the king, or you're the Kshatriya, come on, deal with it. No rain, come on, get some rain going. They would always be commanding him or wanting things from him. Whereas in Vrindavan, the mood was, what can we do for you? I want to serve you, my Lord. I don't want anything from you. So Krishna doesn't necessarily like being pestered all the time. Is that okay, Naniman?
Yeah, that's fine. Yes. Thank you, bro.
Thank you very much. Riyansh.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji, I have a doubt that Krishna lives in these three places, Vrindavan, Mathura, and Dwarka, and wherever Krishna lives, it is filled with beauty and more. But which place is better? Because Krishna stays in all the three places.
Which one do you think?
I think Vrindavan, because which verses would see the footprints.
Very good. You're spot on. The people who live in Dwarka would disagree with you, and the people who live in Mathura would disagree with you. But I think from an analytical point of view, you analyzed it very well. That in Vrindavan, he is most happy, and they are most happy.
And his most devoted devotee, Radharani, can only be found in Vrindavan.
Good point. Yeah, good point. Thank you so much. Okay, Madhusan Babu.
Sorry, Prabhuji, can I ask a question, please?
Oh, of course, yes. How are you feeling?
Oh, still
A bit rough,
rubbish. Yeah. Yeah. So, Prabhuji, what happens then when Kal, Yavan, and Jarasandh, they're both waiting? So Krishna just leaves them hanging up there, or
No, next chapter.
okay. Okay.
Yeah. Next chapter. He does a runner. Actually, Krishna does he walks away from Kalayavana. No, Kalayavana. He walks away from him and he jumps away from Jarasandh.
Yeah, I think he leaves Jarasandh for Bhim.
Yeah, he leaves him for Bhim. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
And he's the only personality who runs away from a battle and is glorified.
There are temples. There are temples, Ranchodrai temples and all.
Exactly. There's temples. There are books written about it.
Yeah. Yeah, so true.
Only Krishna can do that.
Certainly.
Yes, Naniman, what were you saying?
No, I'm okay, Prabhuji.
Okay. Yes, most Gujaratis have visited Dwarka. Very true. Okay, Madhusan Babu.
Okay, Jai Haribol, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Jai Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So yeah, this chapter is amazing actually. You know how Krishna gets into a different mood of sort of being a Kshatriya and has to fight and become a king in Dwarka, and then he looks after his devotees and the Yadavas, as they call it, to protect them. And yeah, it's amazing. So in this chapter, it's amazing and reveals Sri Krishna's transcendental superhuman potencies, which includes the incomparable scientific technologies, powers of controls given to all the demigods, because even the demigods, when he's building Dwarka city, the demigods come and offer all the different things that they've been empowered, like Indra and Varuna. And so, you know, all these powers have been given, powers of control have been given to all the demigods by Krishna, actually. So they offer it back to him when there is a need. And also, he respects the Mahadev, you know, because Garya, he actually prays for a son. He was insulted as a eunuch or something like that by his brother-in-law. So he went off and he spent some time eating powdered iron for some reason. That was his tapasya. So he got the potency of, I don't know what kind of tapasya is that, but and then he has a son because he wanted a son, and that son was Kalyavan. And so Garya, you know, because Mahadev had given him that boon, you know, Krishna wanted to respect that as well, Lord Shiva's so-called boon, or protect his son, and then also like constructing the whole city under the sea and by the sea and Dwarka and all that. So, you know, it's amazing. Krishna has all these different potencies, his weapons, his armies. They come when they want them to, and you know, we experience that. But to us, you know, all this sounds far-fetched and more kind of very all these so-called super movies that we see, you know, like Spider-Man and all that. They seem far-fetched, you know, but this is how it is, you know, with Jarasan 17 times, and Kalyavan, he has to leave him alone. But again, so further on, you know, we also have to take note from this purport where he says that Jarasan came to Mathura with the clear intention of slaughtering everyone, every last man in the city, including Krishna and Balaram. So that was his intention. Jarasan was so bitterly angry, and he wanted to just annihilate every man in Mathura. And it is out of the causeless mercy of the Lord that he gives the conditioned souls a taste of their own medicine, and thus helps them to become more sensitive to the laws of nature. So like Jarasan, they think they're so powerful, they can just do whatever they want. But there are laws of nature to which they have to abide in, the existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because they don't really believe that, you know, there is a personality of Godhead. They want to become the ultimate controllers. Ultimately, Krishna awarded Jarasan and others killed on the battlefield spiritual liberation. So the Lord is strict, but he is not malicious. In fact, he is an ocean of mercy. So in no matter what way, Krishna will work out some way. Even the demons caught up there in their own karma and activities, and so somehow Krishna will resolve all that for them, and then still benefit them with some sort of spiritual benefit. Okay, I think
Thank you.
that should be, yeah.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Any questions? Yes, sorry, go on, Madhusudan.
No, I'm just saying that sort of thing stood out from me for this chapter.
Yeah.
But like we say, you know, we can, I mean, Krishna does all these pastimes to please his devotees, and he says time and time again that I come in different bodies even to establish dharma, and whenever irreligion predominates, then I annihilate the miscreants and please my devotees. So that's what he's doing here, without actually disrespecting any other personality like Mahadev or Lord Shiva, or even the material laws within the Varnashram system. And even if there are wars, then war is under strict laws. You know, it's not fight for indiscriminately and unfairly as well. So he respects all that, actually.
Very true.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you very much for sharing. Very nice.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Any questions? Any comments? Oh, how's Frank? Are you there, Frank?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, great. Any questions? Anything you like to share?
No. I'm listening very, very deeply.
Oh, good. And you find it interesting?
Yes. I have this book, this Canto 10.
Yes.
But it was a long time. It was in my hand. Therefore, it's refreshed my memories.
Good. Yeah, so we're going through each chapter one by one. And
Yes, it's lovely.
hopefully in about 100 days we'll finish it. I think we've already spent like nearly a year on it, isn't it? Anyway, thank you so much for joining us, Frank, and thank you everybody for joining us. And Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, 10th canto ki jai. We'll see everybody tomorrow. We'll continue with chapter 51. Bhagavatam ki jai.